What's happening, everybody? I'm Todd Tanner. This is Wrestling News Now. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the tragic real life story of Dave Bautista. So let's get right down to it. And if you haven't subscribed to Wrestling News Now, kindly hit that subscribe button. Wrestling News Now with Todd Tanner. If you like the content, also hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. Whether you know Dave Bautista as the fearsome WWE superstar Bautista or as the resident metaphor misunderstander of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Drake's the Destroyer, he's one of the world's leading providers of intimidating shirtless characters. Bautista has slowly raised his profile over the years, and while he's becoming a blockbuster juggernaut who could potentially give Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson a run for his money, the wrestler turned actor has also been able to deliver the goods and roles that require fewer spine-buster moves and more nuance. After all, Bautista's role as Drake makes it clear that the big man has a knack for comedic timing, and it's difficult to imagine any other WWE alum in his turn as a Sapper Morton in Dennis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049. It takes an extraordinary person to make it both in the WWE and Hollywood, and Bautista has lived a truly extraordinary life to get to where he is. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean his life has been particularly nice throughout the years. He has endured and on occasion caused other people to endure all sorts of debilitating difficulties. Here's a look at the tragic real-life story of Dave Bautista. There's no easy way to put this. Dave Bautista had a really difficult childhood as detailed by the man himself in his book Bautista Unleashed. He was born in 1969, and he says the Washington, D.C. area he grew up in was one of the nation's poorest throughout the 1960s, the 1970s, and 1980s. And he was growing up. Crack cocaine was about to make its entrance. Murders in the neighborhood were common, and according to him, life expectancy for children was worse than in many third world countries. Bautista goes on to say that homelessness and corruption ran rampant, and even honest folks couldn't trust the police. Sounds like the most dystopic imaginable place to grow up. Dave Bautista immediately rises the stakes by casually mentioning that 3 people died on his doorstep before he turned 9. In an interview with the Tampa Bay Times, he elaborates on one particular death where his mother found a man dying of a gunshot wound outside their house. She called for help, but the officials took too long and the man didn't make it. Meanwhile, Bautista, his sister, and several other children were happily playing outside nearby. They were so accustomed to violent sights that they didn't even shed a tear. And after Bautista's mother saw this, the family promptly moved to San Francisco. Dave Bautista's role as Drake's the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy propelled him to mainstream fame, but according to Wired, the dream gig could get surprisingly nightmarish at times. It has been reported that Bautista was nervous when he auditioned, but that isn't quite true. He has corrected the record. He was actually terrified. His first day on set wasn't any better because apart from his own nerves, he was unfortunate enough to start filming 2 weeks later than anyone else. When he arrived, the others already in the zone and the anxious giant had to scramble to catch up. Bautista eventually calmed down and found his groove. But when existential terror went away, physical discomfort filled the void. The role required buckets of makeup and body paint, which took 4 hours to apply and another 4.5 to remove every day. Because the full upper body treatment didn't really allow the actor to sit down, he had to go through the entire process by leaning on a little saddle-like perch instead of lounging in a comfortable makeup chair. However, getting it all put on wasn't as bad as having to don the Drake's costume. For many consecutive days, Dave Bautista said that by the 3rd or 4th day, his skin started to get sensitive, and by the 6th consecutive day, by the sixth consecutive Drake Day. He just wanted to peel his skin off and hit the showers. While Dave Bautista was a huge WWE star, rumors claim he had and caused his share of backstage trouble. In 2006, he allegedly got into a real fight with fellow wrestler Booker T. WrestleView reports the fight took place when the man shot an ad for the upcoming SummerSlam event, and while it was initially thought to be a staged incident to drum a pipe, reports soon emerged that it had been a legitimate physical fight. Locker room whispers indicated that bad blood had brewed for quite some time because of Batista's bad backstage attitude. The big man had allegedly started to make comments that he carried the company on his back and that he was drawing in the most money. And his relatively quick rise to the top of the food chain and lack of humility had angered many of his colleagues. Said colleagues were also reported to be quite happy with the way Booker stood up to Batista, and other wrestlers were shown hugging and high-fiving Booker after the incident. WrestleView also reported that Batista confirmed things had been escalating for a while between Booker T and himself, and the fight had been a long time coming. Then again, it must be noted that the initial reports of the fight's legitimacy appeared to have come from the WWE itself, and Dave Bautista and Booker T were promoting their title match against each other at the upcoming SummerSlam. Go figure. If you've ever wondered what it takes to get a body like Dave Bautista's, the big man is happy to tell you. But you might not like the answer. In a 2019 interview with the Tampa Bay Times, Bautista says he spent his 20s in a stage he calls reverse anorexia. Despite being a fresh father of 2 daughters, he had no real plans or ambitions, so he got stuck in a loop. He worked all nights as a bouncer, then spent hours at the gym, and by the time he got home, he'd sleep all day and start the cycle anew. Despite weighing over 300 pounds and doing virtually nothing but working and lifting, he felt he was never big enough. Bautista spent 10 years of this schedule, which didn't do any favors for his family's financial stability. As he was pushing 30, he realized he had wasted a decade of his life and was in a situation where he had to borrow money just so he could afford to buy Christmas presents for his children. This bleak situation ultimately came with a silver lining, as the impoverished Bautista decided to try his hand out at wrestling despite being far older than most rookies. Dave Bautista's hulking physique seems to be a bit more age appropriate and less veiny these days. But back in the WWE heyday, he used to be so ripped that it seemed almost impossible. According to Forbes, there have been allegations that this is because Bautista was aided by every dishonest athlete's best friends, steroids. In 2007, the aftermath of the Chris Benoit murder-suicide case led the WWE and other entities to take a long, hard look at the company's wellness policy. And on ESPN, reportedly, and an ESPN report eventually linked Bautista and a number of other wrestlers to a large doping ring. Bautista strongly denied the allegations and insisted that he has both tested regularly and operating in full compliance with the WWE's wellness program. While Dave Bautista ultimately avoided suspicion, the cloud of steroid suspicion has hovered over his head ever since. Wrestling Inc. and Bleacher Report have both reported on industry whispers about his past steroid use, and it has been pointed out that some of his injuries seem oddly consistent with the ones steroid users commonly suffer. Dave Bautista made his name as a WWE powerhouse, but his relationships with the company has been stormy. According to Sportskeeda, Bautista has quit the company twice. In 2010 and 2014, his first departure was reportedly because of a lack of movie opportunities, as Bautista discovered the WWE will offer him roles in the company's movies despite his in-ring star status. He asked if he could go outside the WWE and audition for other films, but was allegedly told, "You're our property. Get dressed for the house show and get to work." Bautista handed in his notice and left the company. Years later, as a borderline piranha on his last night, few people bothered to thank him or say goodbye. This is to be continued. So I'm going to leave it right here. For Wrestling News Now, I'm Todd Tanner.